to another marketing strategy session. My name is Mr. Marketology. I'm your host today, and today I have the pleasure of having the social media, socialite, social expert for millennials. I have Taylor Victoria with me today, all the way from the other side of the world. So thank you for coming on the show today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Now, you have been coined the queen of millennial social media. That has been deemed your throne, and as we've seen through many of your social posts, there are a lot of influencers that you are associated with. You do a lot of speaking engagements and help a lot of companies when it comes to social media, but especially social media to the ever eager, ever changing millennials. That's always been like a thorn in a lot of companies' side, because they look at the old school marketing and they're not really versed on how to address millennials, because millennials have a different way of thinking than us old people. So, I would love to get your insights and your thoughts on what social media is, some of the best practices, the good, the bad, the ugly, and what does it mean when you're trying to target the millennial market?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess first let's just start off with what social media is. So basically, it's just online platforms for people to be social, produce content to share with the world, and basically keep in touch with their family, their friends, and create wider relationships with people from all around the world who they would never usually have the chance to create a relationship with. Like you and me, we would, if it wasn't for social media, we would never have the opportunity to even know each other, because we live on opposite sides of the world. So that's actually one thing I really love about social media and the internet in general, is just the opportunities that it has created for everyone around the world in terms of being able to find people that you can relate to. First, I think for so long, especially like if you're a young person in a small town and you felt a little bit out of place, or like you didn't belong before the internet, it probably would have been really hard. But now you can find circles of people that share the same interests as you and have things in common on social media. So that's really one of the beauties of it. And I can't remember the second question that you asked me. I'm sorry.
Well, how do we as marketers market to the millennial base as a brand? We're looking at the old way of doing it, which was push marketing, which a lot of companies still do today. And I love what you said about it, the building relationships. A lot of brands don't build relationships. They do a lot of advertisement. They do a lot of speaking down from the mountaintops to the peasants below. And this is what you're going to think because I told you to think that way, which used to work back in the television linear days. With that, you had no real options. You watched what was on TV, the commercials told you what was good, you believed it. Now with social media, you have options. You can search for yourself and find what you like. And I don't see a lot of brands finding ways to build relationships with their audience. Whether it's a mass relationship or one-on-one personalization, it's still, this is our talking points, this is our articles, this is our videos, this is our commercial, and they're not building a two-way conversation or giving that opportunity to their audience.
Absolutely. And I think one of the best things about social media is that it's actually taken away the middleman for so many people, in terms of if you're trying to do something, if you want to advertise, or before, if you wanted to advertise, you had to go to the TV or the radio station and they got to decide what the content was that you're putting out there. But now you get to decide, because you have these free platforms that allows you to do anything. But you're 100% correct in the fact that a lot of companies are definitely sort of standing over or thinking that they stand over the top of people and telling them sort of what to do and how to think and buy this product and blah, blah, blah. Whereas millennials just want companies that are relatable, and they want somebody, exactly like you said, they want to build a relationship with a company. They want to feel like they know who the brand is, the people behind the brand, what they stand for, what their mission is, how they're helping the world, because that's something that is really important to us young people. I feel like our generation is a lot more conscious and just aware and really trying to actually create a change in the world, because we can see that there are things that are happening that are irreversible. So we want companies to be showing us how they're actually helping to make a change and how they're doing things differently. That's something that's really important to us. So in terms of the content that companies need to be producing, show us the behind the scenes of the company. Show us in your Instagram stories what the day-to-day is like, or show us the amazing projects that you're working on behind the scenes and the initiatives and all of those sorts of things. Don't necessarily just try and sell to us. Actually create a story around your brand and around what you're doing and who you are. And that's really how you're going to engage with most young people, is because they want to hear the stories. They want to see that you're doing things a little bit differently. So,
and that makes good sense. I mean, you know, it really is. First of all, there's a few takeaways I've taken from that. First, Taylor, you said that our generation just messed up the world. We messed it up, and y'all are trying to fix it. That was the first takeaway. And I apologize for all us old people.
I didn't say that directly, potentially indirectly.
That is a sound bite that we're going to take. Taylor said old people messed up the world. And it's up to the millennials to fix it. But yes, you are correct. The movements are what most millennials gravitate toward. They want to know the mission. They don't want to know the market. They don't want to know the ad. They want to know the mission that you're behind. The second takeaway was they want to know the company as a person in a sense, and not a machine. They want to know the behind the scenes, the CEO's thoughts, the day-to-day with the workers, the co-workers, the company parties, things of that nature. They want to know the story behind the company, the story behind the people in the company, and then the word is story. They want stories. They don't want to say we have a discount today, we have the best pricing, we have this, come by before it's gone. They want to hear that today this was the day-to-day, maybe the problem, this is what was solved, and this is, you know, how it was solved in an entertaining type of way. So you see companies like Dollar Shave Club, and you see other companies out there that have these viral videos and they have these viral posts, but if you analyze them before, you know, they get to the product, they have something interesting, some sort of storyline that's exciting and entertaining. And then at the end, they're like, this is the product. And a lot of times you don't even really know it's an ad in a sense because of the way it's produced. So stories are very important. So when you're putting together like a social post, what are some of the best practices that you do to create that type of story-driven post?
So essentially, with any content you're creating online, I guess there's a couple of different styles or types of content that you can create. So there is sort of the more story-based. There is educational, so helping to educate your audience on whatever your industry may be. There's inspirational, so there's obviously lots of different types of content. There's entertaining, lots of different types. So It depends on what type of content you want to be posting that day. And that really comes back to what your product is and what you're trying to promote at the moment. So a good way to think of it, well, a good way to think about it, it wouldn't necessarily work for all businesses. It would work for most service-based businesses, but you can split your year up into your product launch sections. So in January, for example, like, okay, I have a social media marketing company. In January, we might be launching a group coaching program for small business owners and entrepreneurs. So then our content for the whole of January would really be focusing a lot around education, because we would want to be educating our audience on the benefits of being in things such as masterminds and group coaching, how they could potentially, or what they could potentially learn, how they would learn it, how it would affect their business. A lot of inspirational content as well, sort of showing people where they can go, what they could potentially achieve if they were to work with us. And so you can really focus your content based around whatever product or service you're trying to offer in that particular period of time. And that sort of helps to build the themes. You can have themes within your content as well. So one week you might be talking more about, back to my business, for example, one week we might be talking more about Facebook ads, educating our audience on that, providing value and content around Facebook ads. And then the next we might be talking about Instagram content marketing and how to produce amazing content for Instagram. So there's really your one particular post, you should never just create one single post just as a spur of the moment thing. It should always be built into your bigger strategy, and it should always have a purpose, and you should always be, there should always be an end goal for that piece of content. So having very strong call to actions is very important in all of your content that you're producing. So before you run any posts, think about, okay, what am I currently launching or trying to sell? What do I want the person who is reading this post to do? And then how am I best going to get them to do that? So those are just a couple of things you need to be thinking about when you're actually creating content, because it should never just be, okay, I'm making this one post by itself. It should always be built into a bigger strategy, because the posts have sort of a bigger purpose than just a one-off thing.
Yeah, and that's an important point. Actually having a plan, an editorial calendar mapped out for your social media posts and strategy. I think that's very important, because a lot of times we're in the illusion that it's just spur of the moment thoughts that are captured, instead of an actual plan that goes into your overall marketing plan. And a lot of times I've seen companies to where they're just pretty much just posting, you know, as it comes. They'll wake up in the morning and in the meeting, they'll say, we have to have, 3 tweets a day. Okay, well, let's just tweet about something. Let's find an article out there. Let's do this, that, or we have to have a video. So let's just go shoot a video, but it's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just posting to be posting. And that's a challenge that a lot of companies have, because they've heard it's very important to be consistent in posts, but they don't really take the time out to build that campaign. So that's a very good point.
For sure. Yeah, you always need to be posting with purpose. That's what we say. So, it would be like if your company was about to invest in, they wanted to redo the furniture for the whole office, but they didn't create any sort of financial plan or budget as to how they were going to work that in to the overall business finances for that year. It's almost like the same thing, because if you're killing your social media content, then that can affect the finances of your business greatly. You can seriously increase your business revenue if you've got a good social media marketing content strategy. So why would you not take it as serious as something as your business financial plan for the next 12 months? It really should have the same sort of priority.
It makes sense. So let's get into some of the good, bad, and ugly comparisons. So, all right, I'm going to give you some questions and you let me know what your opinion is around that. So I'll go easy for the beginning.
Oh, thank you.
Quality versus quantity. Which
who decides the quality? Who decides what's good quality and what's bad quality is my question back at you, because my opinion of something that's good quality might be different to your opinion of something that's good quality. So generally I like to say go with quantity, because the more variations of content or whatever you're producing you can get out there, the more people are likely to relate to something that you're putting out there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're saying throw out a wide net and then let your analytics decide what's quality and then start to filter down to that.
Exactly.
Makes sense, makes sense. Next, video quality over audio quality in your content.
Ooh. I'm going to say, oh, this is a hard one because they're both so important. I honestly, okay, I'm going to say audio quality over video quality, because you can edit photos and stuff over the top if the visual's not great. Whereas if you can't hear what people are saying or the audio quality is bad, people will just get annoyed and watch something else.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So posting the same content across multiple platforms versus posting individual content on each platform.
I personally think it's fine to post the same content over multiple platforms, because different people hang out on different platforms. Everyone has their favorite platform that they spend the most time on, and they're not necessarily spending a lot of time on the other platforms. So for example, I spend most of my time on Instagram, and rarely check Facebook or LinkedIn, literally only for my business, and because it's my job. So if a company was to post the same thing on LinkedIn and Facebook as they were Instagram, I genuinely would have no idea. And I think a lot of people are the same. If you're a LinkedIn professional and you love checking your LinkedIn, then that's something that you're going to be doing regularly. Whereas if you're a Facebook person, like my grandparents are Facebook people, they only ever check Facebook. They're not checking any other platforms. So I really think it's fine to post similar or the same content on all of the platforms, because people aren't necessarily going to see it across all of them.
Okay. Now, this is kind of part two. Having a lot of platforms to post on, or multiple platforms to post on, or focusing on one platform and mastering that?
I think it depends on it really, for me, and what I tell people who I help with coaching, do whatever works for you. If you feel that you can master multiple platforms at one time, then go for it, because obviously that's going to get you faster results. But if you feel completely overwhelmed by the fact that you're trying to grow your Instagram, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, and your YouTube channel all at the one time, and that overwhelm then creates complete inaction and you do nothing because you feel so overwhelmed, then that's obviously not helping the situation at all. So if you feel too overwhelmed to master 3 or 4 at one time, just stick to one. But if you can grow multiple, then go for it, because the more you can share your content on multiple platforms, the better.
Okay. Now, the last portion, you got past the good, bad, and ugly round. Your best practice when it comes to actual millennials, marketing to millennials, what would you say would be your overall best practice advice?
In terms of what content people should be creating to market to millennials?
Yes. I mean, if you were to say, if you were to come in and let's say we were to have a short 10-minute window. Now, this doesn't have to be a 10-minute answer, but a 10-minute window. And I would just say, look, if I was to do this one thing to market to millennials, what should I do? What would you say that best practice would be?
Instagram story ads.
Okay.
Because the majority of millennials mostly only hang out on Instagram. Instagram story ads are very cheap at the moment in terms of how many conversions and clicks you can get for the cost. And also, if you can create some super fun and cute, like 15-second videos for people, they're going, like, people will love them. They convert amazingly well. So if you're a company and you really do want to market to millennials, the first thing, as well as creating your normal content in your feed and stuff, the first thing I would suggest would be Instagram story ads.
Sounds good. And I guess the last question is somewhat a question. What would you do to advise a marketer that says, how can we market on the Facebook?
On the Facebook. Oh God. Well, firstly, I would explain to them that it's called Facebook, not the Facebook.
So if they're not out of touch, it's going to be a long day.
For sure. Secondly, what I would say, so Facebook is frustrating in terms of the content that you post organically gets shown to 3% of your audience on Facebook. So if you have 100 followers, it's getting shown to 3 followers.
Yeah.
So really you need to be doing Facebook advertising if you want your content to be seen on Facebook. The best way and the way that I have found to get the absolute best results for people doing, for my clients who I'm doing Facebook marketing for. Basically, if you think of a paid campaign, there's 3 different variables when it comes to a campaign. So there's the image that you're showing or the video, there's the message or the copy that you've written, and then there's the audience that you're showing it to. So most people who do Facebook marketing will only create sort of maybe 3 or 4 ad sets to go out to maybe 1 or 2 audiences and sort of hope that that's going to get some good results. The way that I've found to get the absolute best results is actually to get 5 separate, so we create for our clients, we create 5 separate messages or pieces of copy. We pair that with 4 different images, and then we show that up to 30 different audiences. Okay. So we create nearly 600 ad set variations for our clients, depending on their ad spend. Because when you create such a huge amount of variation, it's very easy after the first 4 to 5 days to see exactly which images and which messages are resonating with what audiences. So then you have, based off the numbers of actually what is converting well, you know what ad sets to cull, you know which ones to keep, and then from the ones that you keep, you can basically recreate ad sets that are very similar to the ad sets that are already in there. Sometimes it's literally just a matter of changing the age bracket of the ads or changing the daily ad spend. You can literally almost keep the message and the image the same, but just changing that slightly, and then you're just producing multiple ad sets that are converting ridiculously well because you've tested the variations and you actually have data and analytics on what works. So that that formula, the message with the image and the audience, creating as many variations as you possibly can, and then running that to up to 30 audiences. If you do that, you basically can't fail, because there are so many. As long as you, for the person who's asked me about the Facebook, as long as they Googled how to run a basic ads campaign and then use that formula, they would be able to see relatively good success with a very basic knowledge. So really that formula is essentially foolproof in terms of Facebook marketing, because you're creating so many different variations.
That makes sense. And so instead of saying our audience is 25 to 55, let's say, you would say 25 to 30, 30 to 35, 35 to 40, and you can basically change it. Instead of saying I offer A, B, C, and D, you would say this ad sets for A, this ad sets for B, this ad, and that makes sense. Makes a whole lot.
Totally. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be the age thing. It can be they can be interested in different things. There's actually a really cool trick, now that I remember to say this. So if people are familiar with when you log into Facebook ads or Facebook Business Manager, you go to the Ads Manager, and in the top left corner, there's the button that has like the 3 little lines. You click on that and you click Audience Insights. There's a button that says Audience Insights. Then you can type in, generally with your audience, you'll sort of know some things that they might be interested in. So, or people or books or movies or, so for example, for my audience, they might be super interested in Gary V or Gary Vaynerchuk, because he's also to do with social media marketing. He's a huge sort of big businessman in America. So when you go into the audience insights in the business, in the ads manager, if I was to type in Gary V in the audience, there's a section where you can type in interests. Type in Gary V, and then after that, it actually gives you a list of the people who have liked the Gary V Facebook page. What are the next top pages that they like? So you can base your Facebook ad audiences off those different pages. If you know one thing that your audience is really interested in, it might be one particular book or one particular movie or a sporting team or something like that. But then you can actually literally get the numbers and the different interests from Facebook in the audience insights as to what your audience is also interested in besides that one key thing. So that's literally, that can give you almost your 30 ad sets. So based off that.
So instead of bucketing them all in one interest, like a lot of people do, they'll bucket all of those as one set. You would have each one as its own individual ad set.
Yep, totally. And so, for example, if you were a coach, you might run one ad set to people interested in Tony Robbins, one ad set to people interested in Preston Smiles, another to Alexi Panos. So you can actually, if you just run the different ad sets to one audience, to one interest, with the multiple variations, then it's really super easy to get data on where your audience is showing up and converting. It works really well.
And then overall roll up, you would actually control the budget aspect of it from the campaign level. And now they have a great new way of doing it where you can actually spread that budget across and have it pretty much manage the budget across multiple ad sets versus the old way where you had the budget in the ad set and you would have to adjust the budget in each individual ad set and then pull out your calculator and try to figure out how much you're spending.
Totally. But one thing I will say, you have to spend at least $1 per day on each ad set. You can't spend less than that. Ideally, it's good to spend probably around $10 per day per ad set if you can. That's why the number of variations I create for our clients depends on their ad spend, because it's actually better if you have about $5 to $10 per ad set. So then the ad spend depends on how many variations we create.
Okay. And then you wait about 4-5 days.
Yeah, so we call it the incubator period. It's sort of like when you're waiting for the ads to develop and get tested by Facebook and see sort of which ones do well and which ones don't. And then after, I'd say probably about 5 days to be safe. Okay. You can see which ones are converting well and which ones aren't, and then just turn off the ones that aren't, keep the ones that are doing well going, and start recreating.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. So if you are looking to optimize your social media efforts, feel free to reach out to Taylor. Taylor can give you a way to contact her, as well as we'll give you a way in the show notes, and we'll give you even more value if you're a member of the Marketology Group membership, so you can find different ways to grow your business and market to the millennials, which has been very much a challenge for a lot of businesses out there. So Taylor, if you would in part provide information on how they can reach you, how they can reach you to help them with social media, reach you to book you for speaking opportunities, and so forth.
Yeah, totally. So you can find my company on all major platforms just by typing Millennial Girls Media. And if you don't know how to spell millennial, like I didn't know before I started this business, no, it's MILLENNIAL, Girls Media. If you're interested in having a chat about us creating some content for you, helping with your marketing strategy, running paid campaigns, we're doing podcast editing now. So if anyone wants to start a podcast, hit me up and we can get that going as well. So yeah, just search Millennial Girls Media on any of the platforms. And I've also just launched our podcast, which is called the Millennial Business Podcast. So we're going to be teaching business owners and entrepreneurs around the world how to live, lead, create, and earn like a millennial. So if you want to listen to my podcast as well, I would love it if everyone could jump over and have a listen. That would be swell. But yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, that would be great. So everybody, take some time out to subscribe to that podcast and listen, because you already have a taste of what you're going to learn.
Yeah.
It's all about knowledge. If you don't have the knowledge, you can't make smart decisions. So go ahead and jump over. You can listen to more podcasts, get more tips and ideas. And then when the time is right, you have a resource that you can reach out to help you take that next step if you get stuck. And this is what this is all about. This is all about relationships. It's all about building a business community and not trying to learn by your own mistakes. Learn from those that know, that are doing it every day, and that's what they do. So I encourage everybody to subscribe to the podcast, get on her social media. I mean, like her, follow her. You'll learn a lot of information. And it's funny how somebody so young knows so much, position herself so well. So do that. And like I said, in the business community, we're going to bring you even more resources like this to help you grow your business, because that's really what this is all about, is you growing your business. And if you're successful, then we've been successful in our efforts. So thank you so much, Taylor, for jumping on. I look forward to hearing your podcast. I look forward to following you even more than I have. She didn't even name drop. You'll see when you get on her socials. She didn't even name drop some of the people that she have associated with. She did name drop Gary Vee though.
I've met Gary Vee, and it was like the greatest day of my life, because he's my idol, and I got a photo with him, and I was just like fangirling so hard, but trying not to fangirl at the same time. But I just nearly cried. Like, it was so good.
So if you want to know how she tune into her podcast.
Yes,
I'm
I
gonna
like
let you know.
that. Good hook. Very good hook.
So we will let you all get back to work. Thank you all for joining us today and learning how to market to millennials with social media.
Thank you guys. Bye.